So the book talks about securitization. And I like to talk about securitization because this is like accounting for self-defense and for financial self-defense, I guess. So securitization, it was a popular form of the sale or transfer of receivables. This comes under the heading of, the factoring arrangements. So how did this work? You'd have a bunch of people who took out mortgages for their homes, okay? And so maybe Wells Fargo, the bank, holds those mortgages. Wells Fargo bunches all those mortgages together and sells them to Goldman Sachs, who's, a big investment banker. Okay, so Goldman Sachs, basically, these are packaged into what are called mortgage-backed securities, okay? So there are a whole bunch of these mortgages receivable. So you've got payments that are coming in to those, for the mortgages, and then you have people, these are packaged so that investors can buy them. They can buy mortgage-backed securities. And so you've got investors who are buying these. So how does this, so a lot of the pension funds bought these mortgage-backed securities. These were very popular in the early 2000s. So basically the financial institution buys a bunch of receivables from the, they can buy mortgages receivable, credit card receivable, car loans receivable. They glom them together into what's called a pool of assets. And then these assets are bought by investors, and so the investors have, these assets, and as if they had bought a stock, they get payments. They get regular interest payments on these, and they were considered generally low risk. The bond rating companies gave them pretty good bond rating, gave them pretty good ratings, which means they were considered low risk. Okay, so. This went on for a while, but then how the regulations were relaxed. That's a direct quote from the book, that the regulations were relaxed. And so a lot of these mortgages were being extended to people who really couldn't pay them back, what they call subprime borrowers. And these were being really pushed. And so this all came to a head with the financial meltdown of 2008, when people realized, oh yeah, these are not really assets because they're not going to get collected because the loans are from people who can't pay them, okay? So I know someone who was on the Mass Teachers Association Pension Committee. He was the chair. And during the early 2000s, there was huge pressure on this committee, and on him particularly, to invest in these mortgage-backed securities. But he looked at them, and the people paying in might have been paying 6%, but the payments going out were 10. Now that doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense to him, and because it just doesn't make sense. How are you bringing in 6 and paying out 10? That's some sort of a scam, okay? And that's exactly what it ended up being. So the Mass Teachers Association never bought these. When the meltdown came, pension funds all over the country, they lost a lot of their value because people had fallen for this. So anyway, one thing I have on Blackboard is, if you look in the, that articles section, where are we here? Back to the articles. And I'd kind of recommend listening to this. You'll have cases to do at some, oh wait, I'm going to the wrong spot here, wait a minute. Okay. This gives you time to, okay, articles, there we go. Okay, so if you go to the giant pool of money, right? This is This American Life podcast, and it helps you decide who to blame for the 2008 meltdown. It's a really interesting because it ties all of the parties together, and it really shows how it happened. And so if you have cases to do, you've got 2 cases to do for this course. If this interests you, you could talk about that. But anyway, I just like you to, sort of be aware of sort of the background of things like this, because right now we're also in a period of relaxed regulation, And my message to everybody when that happens is just watch out.